and welcome to the Law Center videocast. I'm Larry DeMarco, your host and founder of the Law Center. Thanks for joining us today. If you watch the Law Center videocast and any other of the videos on the playlist on the Law Center or playlist on the Law Center, please subscribe to the channel, like, share, and comment. Subscribing, liking, and sharing will cause more people to be able to enjoy and learn from the Law Center videos. Today, I am pleased to introduce Carolyn Klika. She is the founder of Abounding Joy Ministry and is a certified Catholic divorce coach, life coach, and relationship mediator with extensive training in psychology, theology of the body, healing ministry, negotiation, interpersonal communication, and spiritual direction. Carolyn, thank you for being a guest on the Law Center videocast.
Thanks for having me, Larry.
Please give us a brief description of what you do with Abounding Joy Ministry.
Yes, Abounding Joy Ministry I founded about 8 years ago in order to minister to people who are in pain and have lost some of their joy. And all of us want joy. We want to live in peace and freedom and joy. And so as a certified life coach and relationship coach, I founded Abounding Joy in order to bring God's joy to people who have lost it. And over time, I have come to focus almost exclusively on people who are suffering from discerning separation or divorce or having marital difficulties that essentially have stolen their joy.
Carolyn, you mentioned almost exclusively, and of course, we had the pleasure of meeting in relationship to the divorce or custody trauma that people go through. Do you accept people who are seeking counseling related to completely different things other than divorce and custody?
Yes, I do. So primarily I work with people before, during, and after divorce. And, people who just think I'm at the end of my marriage, I'm out of options, I don't know what else to consider, but they don't want a divorce. But you're right. Other people are in existential pain because of some other issue. And so, yeah, if they are needing joy and they're in pain, sometimes my clients call me the pain doctor. And they'll say that, one lady said, I come in pain like I'm burning on fire, and I leave your sessions like the fire is out. And so that's my joy, that, to be able to work with people in whatever regard.
That's beautiful. Now, your subspecialty with divorce and that type of trauma, why are you passionate about that kind of work?
Well, Larry, I grew up as a child of divorce. My father left at the age of 6. And so I lived through the trauma of divorce and that, that void that was there and that trauma. And so I grew up absolutely determined to not be divorced. And so I did everything I possibly could, very intentional, to have a successful marriage. And I was married for 30 years, had 5 children, 2 adopted from Russia, and had, absolutely my mind set on, a forever marriage. And although it was difficult from the beginning, after 30 years, my husband determined that he was going to go forward in life as a female. And, that, of course, is incompatible with marriage. And that, substantially ended our marriage. The trauma and the shock and everything that a person goes through with divorce is just, it's unparalleled. It's unique to any other situation. You think about where we are in marriage, we are a one flesh union. And when that breaks up, it is a tearing. It's very painful, and it just affects everything in our life. And I didn't have substantial help going through that divorce. And I feel like the Lord schooled me during that process and taught me and called me to go through as amicable a divorce as possible. I realized going through that there was like a landmine of just, I don't know. It was like I just saw that there were landmines of sin ahead of me, like greed and selfishness and all of those things. And so I thought, oh, this is a season that is fraught with the potential for sin and doing wrong. And so I feel like the Lord schooled me in how to go through that. And so I'm passionate to help other people to share what I've learned, not only from my own experience, but from the experience of working with hundreds of other individuals and couples who are facing or going through divorce or trying to heal from it.
So what do you do with these couples or individuals who come to you for help?
So the clients that come to me, oftentimes it's an individual. The motivator to come to me is that they feel stuck and that they can't move on with their life, or they're in great pain and they need support. They need help, support, and guidance. And so I do a needs assessment survey with them that they fill out to identify what are all the areas of need. And that gives us a very good, overview and a good starting point to say, these are the things, these are the needs, and let's prioritize them and let's start working on, whether it's working on forgiveness, whether it's on understanding really what the truth is, because a lot of times with divorce, the identity of us as a person is so greatly affected and damaged. And so oftentimes people believe lies like, I'm not good enough, no one will ever love me, God can't forgive me. These are all lies that really cause so much pain. And so we work on trying to uncover and correct any lies and just address all the issues that they have. We are body, mind, soul, and spirit. We're not, one facet. And so our healing and our life has to have a multifaceted, holistic solution. And so I come from a spiritual, psychological, emotional, physical, and then the financial and parental are also important components for people who are going through these life changes. And so I address whatever of those facets are in need for the given individual.
With what frequency does then a couple come in versus you just sticking with an individual? How often is there a willingness for the partner to participate?
This is fascinating. I would have guessed it so differently, Larry. So when there's an individual who comes in and wants to save their marriage, but doesn't think it's possible, and I start working with them and they start having the light bulb go on and seeing what they actually can do, that they're not powerless, that even though they can't control the other person, they can influence and persuade the other person by what they're doing or stopping doing. And so once I have somebody who wants to save their marriage and they're motivated, I have an invitation process that I've developed to invite the other spouse to give feedback, because I'm working with, the first person. And to date, Larry, and I hope this continues, and I never would have expected this, but to date, every spouse, no matter how reticent or wherever they are, they have agreed to meet with me, and they've accepted the invitation to come and have a conversation. Now, many of those go forward and engage in coaching to try to save the marriage.
So that's where there's something to save, that someone comes in when there's a mutual willingness. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not mutual. Sometimes one person wants a divorce and the other one wants to save. And it's the one who wants to save their marriage who comes to me. And In the last year or so, I've counted 7 or 8 couples who, through the intervention that the Lord has had and the grace that He's outpoured, have saved their marriages. And these are always situations that are right at the edge of the cliff. I don't get like what a marriage counselor gets with, people early, mid, and late in their problems. I get the ones that are on the very end of their rope. They don't see any option. And that's why they come to me, is because they're already divorce minded and thinking that it's the only option. So for me, the first thing that I want to understand is there a possibility to save their marriage, and what might that take, and work at that if it's possible.
How did you get involved in this type of ministry and spiritual coaching?
Well, again, I went through it myself, and I feel like the Lord really schooled me in this area. And I developed a lot of principles, and I realized what worked with me. And as I became a certified life coach and relationship coach, you just in life, you gravitate toward certain things, and certain people gravitate toward you. And those are the clients that just began showing up. And I began learning more and more and studying more and more about divorce, and my background in psychology with relationships. My whole career has been spent developing, maintaining, and improving relationships, and being involved in negotiation. And so my background really gave me a firm foundation in trying to create a win-win for people. And that has really served me well in this work.
What is unique about your particular approach, and why is it important?
Well, Larry, I could tell you what I think about it, what's unique, but I'd rather tell you what my clients tell me that they feel is unique, because I think that carries a little more weight.
Please do.
I hear over and over that from my clients that there's nothing out there like what I do. And I doubt that that's true. I think it's just probably rare. And, what they tell me is that they, sometimes will go to a priest for spiritual direction, but he doesn't have the tools in relationship building, and he doesn't have the experience with marriage, and he certainly doesn't have the experience with divorce. And then they might go to a therapist. Many of my clients have been to a therapist. I am not a therapist. And, some people get great help from therapy, and I'm grateful for that. Many of my clients have not found solutions in therapy. And the therapists often that they work with don't come from a spiritual perspective. And so the thing that's unique, I think, that I hear is that I come from a holistic approach, that I have the experience, that I come from a deeply spiritual and a Catholic perspective. Although I work with Christians, non-Christians, I'll work with anyone who wants help, and I have. But I think it's the holistic nature of coming to the healing process from all the different dimensions, emotional, psychological, spiritual, physical, etc.
I want to hear about your Build Your Life workshop, but I also want to ask, because I think it's so neat, your involvement with Ascension Press. Did your experience with them lead you further along becoming finding this ministry? I'd love to hear how they affected you, if at all.
Well, so this is such a cool story, and it's a story I love to tell. So I met Matthew Pinto, the founder of Ascension Press, before Ascension was even founded. And he and I started to do some apostolic work together. And when he began Ascension, he asked me if I would basically handle everything with his new book. And I thought, how much trouble could one little book be? Yeah, okay, I'll do it. And so essentially for the first 5 years, Matt and I were Ascension Press. There was nobody else on board. And so I was just privileged really to work with him, who I have the highest regard for. And Ascension, then, we had to launch the Great Adventure Bible Timeline, and we launched Theology of the Body with Christopher West, and just so many amazing resources. And I was privileged to be at the center of that. And I think what really was helpful for me, it gave me another whole deep layer of foundation in terms of Catholic teaching. I was rubbing elbows and hearing all these incredible talks by Jeff Cavins and Christopher West, and many wonderful Dr. Ted Sri, Father Mike Schmitz, which many people know about from Bible in a Year. And so I was at developing trainings, but being trained by these masters. And so, and at the same time, we were being called upon to go out to the parishes and develop Catholic Bible study. And when we began, there were very few parishes that were doing Catholic Bible study. They didn't have a Bible scholar, they said. So we had to develop trainings and go out and train parishes how to do Bible study. And there's a lot of negotiation and relationship building involved in all that work, which was another layer of foundation for me. And I just want to thank anybody listening for if they've been involved in getting Bible study or participating. Today most Catholic parishes have Catholic Bible study, and that was greatly due to Ascension's work with our team.
Very good. And you founded Build Your Life Workshop. Share with the viewers a little bit about that, please.
So Build a New Life Workshop is it is a 12-week support and healing program. It's for people before, during, or after divorce. And if you're married and you're struggling in your marriage, you can't stay in that old marriage that hasn't worked. You need to build a new life. Hopefully that new life is in a renewed marriage. It's within that marriage. But when that's not possible, you absolutely need to build a new life. And life, if we think about the word life is what God gives us. He breathes life into us. And divorce is a mini death. It's a death to many things. So Build a New Life Workshop, it's 12 weeks. It has a video, it has written materials, it has group coaching. So for 12 weeks, we meet for a couple hours with the group, and we pray, we share, I teach, we do group coaching, we try to untangle some of the specific issues that people are having. And through that, people experience radical, and I mean radical, transformation. Here's a quote that it just is astounding. One gal came in and said, when I started Build a New Life Workshop, she said, I know it's really terrible to say, but I hated my husband. I wanted him to get hit by a truck and go to hell. And
as terrible as that sounds, that's common though, isn't it?
It's horrible. And we do have these feelings. We don't want the feelings, but it's how we feel because we've been so hurt.
That's right.
And before the end, she said, she reported to the group, she said, Carolyn and I have come up with a prayer process for me to pray for my ex-husband. And now I'm gonna take up that mission, and I hope to see him in heaven. And so she was radically transformed. And isn't that wonderful for her ex-husband to be getting that prayer? But can you imagine the transformation within that woman, the bitterness and resentful and hatred that she had, and transformed into forgiveness and actual Christian charity? That's what the Lord can do. He is our great healer.
You also have a aftercare process group for graduates. Share a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, see, what happens is that in that program, with the deep sharing, people make such profound connections. And so, so we just want to stay together. And there's so much content, so much teaching in Build a New Life workshop that it's you can't process and absorb it all. And so I developed a 6-week Build a New Life workshop aftercare process group. We just had the first one last night with this new group. And it's just, it's a way for people to continue to connect, continue to process, and actually get help with the issues that are happening this week, things they haven't processed from before, but sometimes it's, this is what's going on, my court date, my children had this happen, and they're just getting that group coaching and support that is ongoing.
Tell us about the retreat that you wrote, Trust in Him.
Oh my goodness. Back in COVID times, everyone was at a peak of anxiety and worry. We didn't know what this COVID thing was. And let's face it, with or without COVID, we all have worries and anxieties that we carry, and they really burden us. So I wrote a workshop retreat called Trust in Him, Releasing Your Worries and Anxieties. Because to the degree that we trust, that we're able to trust the Lord, is the degree that we can actually release worry and release our anxieties so that we can walk in greater peace and freedom and joy. That's the goal, is to have joy and that peace. And so that's a retreat that I wrote, and parishes will bring me in, and I put on like a 6-hour retreat on a Saturday. And it's a combination of listening and sharing and one-on-one time with the Lord, very interactive, lots of smiling and laughing and connecting with new people, and having a time to connect with the Lord that we don't often take time to do.
So you appear live at these, you don't have anything online, you're present and you go and participate in that retreat?
That's exactly right. Yes, I present it. Yes.
So in all your ministry, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face?
I would say that, first of all, people not coming for help that is readily available because they don't know. That's a challenge, just getting the word out. And I think the other challenge for me is despair, not my despair, but people's despair. We have to have hope. In order for us to seek help or believe that healing is possible, we have to have hope. And so I would just say, for people who are walking in despair, there is so much hope. I've just seen so many situations where people have been, on a pain scale of 8, 9, 10. And in a very short time, they report like a 4 to 5 point pain drop, and, so that they're down near 3. I mean, obviously, some of these issues that people deal with, there's no easy solution and there's no quick solution, but there is hope. And if people are in despair, the hope isn't, or the help is not accessible because they're not reaching out for it.
So share with our viewers some gold nuggets of advice or words of wisdom.
Some of the key things that I think are important and valuable to share about healing and getting out of pain. The first thing is the Lord is our power source. He is the one to go to. He is our healer. And, some of us have very close relationships with God. Some we might be sort of rocky and maybe feel abandoned. But to know that God loves us regardless of anything that we've done, that He is there for us, that He is calling us. And He really is the one who can make the changes. We can try to work and work and work And we do have talents and abilities that he's given us, but really, if we want to see that radical transformation, we need to plug into the power source. And, another thing is that there is help. There's help available. There are tools that can actually radically change your relationship with a difficult person, even in a short amount of time. And there's a BIF method: brief, informative, friendly, firm. Just there are little tips like that that can just make a radical difference. I believe that the most powerful force in the universe is love. And we are capable of loving people, even who have hurt us, even who are making our life difficult, through the grace of God, not on our own power, but through his grace, that we can love, and that love has power to transform. And the first person that it transforms is me, myself.
Thank you for sharing that. All this information is going to be in the description portion of the video. You have a great website, but for those listening in the car ride or just have the audio and are exercising, please verbally tell them where we can learn more about you.
Thank you, Larry. So my website is aboundingjoyministry.com. And that's probably the best way to see some of the information that we've discussed. But for those of you who are just interested in some relationship tips, I have a resource page. I do have an interview that I did with Christopher West there. There are 2-minute audios that I've done for Carolina Catholic Media Network, and there's a link to about 35 of them. They're not all related to divorce or separation. They're all related to our humanity and our relationship with God and others. And so, they're there if they're helpful. So aboundingjoyministry.com.
Carolyn, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing and giving, speaking to all the viewers. So we're going to leave it there, and I want to thank you for being a guest on the Law Center videocast.
Thank you for having me. God bless you, Larry.
Thank you. God bless you as well. We have been here with Carolyn Klika, and I am your host, Larry DeMarco. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and leave some comments about your thoughts. Also, click the notification bell next to subscribe to be alerted of new videos. Check the description portion of this video where you can learn more about Carolyn and the Law Center. Signing off. Tune in next time. Bye for now.